All right, let's get going, huh? Let's go, gather up. Come on now. All right, fellas, you got to remember your body is
Look
like
good,
day on
sound
rice.
good?
If it ain't
Yeah.
warmed up
Coming
properly,
through?
some real bad is
Okay.
bad.
All right. Well, then let's get this show on the road. Welcome, everyone, to Overtime with Coach Blu and Athletic Director Marissa.
Hello.
Here in the Addict Athlete studio. I think we'll call it the locker room, the dugout. We have a lot of nicknames for this place, don't we?
Yeah.
Yeah.
It works for a lot of things.
It does. It does. It's a multi-purpose place, yeah. But Overtime is your opportunity to jump on, ask some questions, anything pertaining to addiction, recovery, mental health issues, relationships, recreation. Blu Robinson here, the founder of Team Addict Athlete, and a mental health therapist and addiction counselor, duly licensed in
Yes.
both fields. Marissa, you?
I am a certified recreational therapist and everything else.
Everything else. Yeah, the athletic director of this program, the brains behind everything that is Addict to Athlete. Recreational therapy, good grief, what a great career, you know.
Yeah.
Let's be honest. Get paid to play.
They
say.
Want to get back to that.
Rec therapist.
point.
Yeah, rec therapist, man. You guys work hard.
But right now I do all the administrative stuff. But
I know.
someday I'll be back to playing.
One of these days we'll have such a large approach to recovery with our nonprofit that we'll be able to bring lots of folks on
and I can hire somebody to
get
do
back
the
to the skill set.
jobs I don't
Exactly.
love.
There are people out there that have passions for running programs like this, doing that stuff, and we've got to find them. But
Yeah.
nonetheless,
Accounting, administrative. Yeah.
exactly. Nonetheless, until that day comes, we will gladly do it because that's our mission here.
Yep.
Hey everyone, it's good to have you guys here. We got a couple of great questions, and the floor is still open. So if you have questions you'd like to have answered, don't hesitate to drop a comment down in the little space provided there on Facebook.
Yeah.
This podcast will be rebroadcast through the digital magistry that is iTunes and Spotify. So if you're watching this,
radio everywhere else.
yeah, if you're watching this and the boss comes up, you see him sneaking up, just go ahead and log out because in a few days we'll post it as its own podcast. So don't worry about that. Marissa, we dropped a new episode of our Patreon today, and it's a good one. And I'm really excited to do a huge deep dive on finding, discovering, helping heal the inner child. And the first episode of that was released just hours ago. And it's a little bit of an emotional roller coaster. I need you to know. We start talking about the inner child, the stuff that creates the human experience. We don't realize how much of our experience as adults kind of go back to inner childhood work.
Yeah, there's a lot.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. And if any of you need any kind of like homework for inner child, I highly recommend the movie Disney's The Kid.
One of my top
amazing
10 favorite movies of all time.
Absolutely. It's an amazing movie that depicts Bruce Willis kind of meeting his younger self. And talk about inner child work. If you're kind of like, what is an inner child? Watch that movie.
Yeah.
I'm sure it's on Disney Plus.
It's got to be.
Yeah.
I haven't watched it in a long time.
Jump
We
off
own
that
it. So
subscription.
maybe, do we have a DVD player? So
I think, who owns a DVD player nowadays?
One of your Xboxes plays DVDs, right? I think.
I don't know. It might. But do we have that or do we have the VHS? Because we could go old school.
I'm sure we have the DVD.
Yeah.
Because, that's one of my top 10 favorite
But go
movies.
check out the Patreon episode of Discovering the Inner Child. We're going to go through the whole process of introducing you to that inner child, going through the healing processes, using some cognitive behavioral therapy techniques, and then how to align yourself with it. Because the goal isn't to snuff out your inner child. You've got to have that. Yeah. The inner child is still what makes you happy when you go to Disneyland as an adult, or you're looking forward to a vacation, or you're going fishing or something. That inner child is the one that kind of gets the juices flowing to have a great experience. But there are tendencies that when you carry a wounded child within, that's where some of the default mechanisms take over that make life a little more challenging. So go check out this episode.
Do you talk about Garber Mate, the guy we...
No, but he's coming up as we get into the healing process.
Yeah, in Florida.
Mm-hmm.
If you're
Garber
wanting in information on, inner child, he does a lot of really good stuff. A lot of good work. It's awesome.
So I guess in order to jump on Patreon, you've got to subscribe to the Patreon program. We have a amazing, I think, tiered system to help you guys jump on, and each tier comes with its own perks and benefits. But as little as $2 a month can get you all the bonus stuff, and That's worth it in and of itself.
Yeah. We have easily over 50 bonus episodes, I believe. And yeah, you can start at $2 a month to get some of the bonus stuff, as well as higher levels to get other exclusive gear and swag.
Absolutely. So check it out, patreon.com/addictoathlete. But we should definitely celebrate our Patreon subscribers and the ones that make it possible. Their contributions help get this podcast out, pushed further on the platforms that we've chosen, the equipment that we're using. If it wasn't for them, our podcast would be greatly reduced in its stretch out there. So who do we have on the Patreon list? I tried to build that up so you'd pull it up. So I don't know how long I could talk about the same thing.
We have all these people watching, and I'm welcoming them.
Rock on. Well, hold on, every you watchers. Let's celebrate all these people that make this possible.
So we want to thank our super fans: Karen Hardy, Steve Riggs, Jerem Thurston, Tara Butson, Holly Davies, Scott Foster, Chris Williams, Sensei KP Brown, Patrick Forsyth, Christy Case, Kel Lim, Faith Davis, and Andrew Baird.
And real quick, I must add to the discussion here. Congratulations, Steve Riggs, on becoming one of the 2 Addict Athlete MVPs, most valuable players for 2023. Congratulations, Steve.
Yeah, thank you, Steve.
And KP?
And KP was the running
buddy
award. Yep. We had our awards last night. If you guys want to go back to the video, it's pretty awesome.
It's kind of emotional. I'm up there bawling half through the whole thing.
Very good night that we had last night. So
thank you.
Congratulate all of our athletes. We want to also thank our rookies: Earl Dyer, Wendell Wood, Brad Waldron, Rana Deloche, and Sione and Mary Inuki.
Maybe we should also say the other half of that MVP goes to Brad Waldron, who is the other of the 2.
Yeah, thank you, Brad.
MVP of the year.
And then Sione won the Phoenix
David Clark Phoenix Award. So congratulations, Sione, out there living the life in beautiful Paris, France right now.
Exactly. So, they just went to Paris, Disneyland, Paris.
Man.
Okay. So then we want to thank our pro levels: Justin Robbins, Gary Thurston, and Floralena Grant. Thank you. Pro levels. And our championship level: Shad and Freya Robinson. Thank you to our amazing Patreon subscribers for all that you do.
I've had discussions with Shad and Freya, Freya specifically, about upcoming events, and it looks like we get to push some of them girls down for the Hard Rock Las Vegas run.
Yeah, you told me I have to start training a little harder.
So Freya, I've invited her, and I'm going to go ahead and accept for her the 5K that she can run that Saturday. So we'll be there.
Yeah.
Yeah, we'll be there.
I need to get on the treadmill because it's
down,
too cold outside.
I think the 5K for the Hard Rock is on Fremont Street, which is a little sketchy territory. So you'll run a little faster just down of fear for your well-being.
Night too? So we get the lights?
I think so. Yeah, it better be. Shoot, that's why we're going down.
That's the whole point, right?
Yeah. So stay tuned. But yeah, patreon.com/addictoathlete. We'd love to have you guys be a part of that. Again, this next dose of episodes we're doing how to heal the inner child. So it's great stuff, Marissa.
Yeah.
We did last night conclude our 2023 year in review. I want to give a special shout out and thanks to all of the athletes that participated, that won awards. We couldn't do this without you. Addict Athlete continues to grow. We've got several more coaches in the hopper that are taking the training.
Yeah.
And I think we got Dustin on here too that's really ready to start getting moving. And so he and I are going to be chatting hopefully sometime today if I can get a free moment in my schedule. If not, Dustin, tomorrow, because we want to get Addict to Athlete down there in your neck of the woods in the beautiful state of Texas. So,
absolutely.
Yeah.
And we're growing. It was awesome last night to be able to have awards for some people you and I haven't even met because we have chapters all over Utah and even further. So, or that we don't know very well. Many of them I know of. But it's pretty awesome.
Well, again, thank you everybody who participates. We couldn't do this without you. So let's jump into some of our questions. And again, if you guys have any questions that you want to have answered, feel free to.
Yeah.
You're pointing at your screen.
There is one question now. Do we want to do that before those?
Let's jump into it.
All right. So Lisa is on here and she said, I just had a tooth pulled yesterday and I'm only taking Tylenol. I'm miserable trying to decide if I need to miss another day of work. Also trying to quit smoking cigarettes. And it is perfect timing, but I don't know if I have enough willpower. Any comments or suggestions?
This is a big one. This will sometimes get people in a little bit of hot water. And the reason why is because medication that, and there's a few reasons. First of all, there are some people that get so rigid and staunch that they believe that if they take something that's even prescribed, that there's the potential risk of relapse or considered a relapse through other programs. But there's also the fear and the anxiety of what happens if I take this and it lights up that part of the brain that's like, hey, you really like this, don't you?
Yeah.
And this is where I would say, first and foremost, you've got to have a strong circle. Marissa and I last year, and I think Steve and was it Jed, we were all at the BYU alumni game. And, for those of you guys that know, we do a podcast with Max Hall, former BYU quarterback, former Cardinals quarterback living in Arizona.
Yes.
We do a podcast, Agents of Recovery. And towards the end of the game, Max goes down pretty hard and ended up tearing in half his Achilles tendon.
It was awful.
We watched him kind of crutch over to the sidelines, continue to keep a game face on, signed a bunch of autographs, and we could see it. And his recovery process was long. And Max chose right out the gate, I'm not taking anything for this. Max's drug of choice was opiates. And Max's mom said something that just melted my heart. And, she's like, I am so nervous about what the recovery process might mean. And I said to her, you don't have to worry this time because he has an amazing team behind him. I would say first and foremost, that's where you've got to start. You've got to first and foremost, if you are in excruciating pain, the pain can actually become a precursor for some other relapse.
Yeah.
See, this is the hard part. These personal choices we have to make. I would definitely start with making sure that you have a strong circle of people that are there. Sometimes you've got that ready-made, sometimes you don't. And if you don't, then we have a problem. And the problem is that we haven't done the field work prior to the issue, which means that, oh crap, that's due today. I should have had this in place, right? A lot of us don't forward think like this because we're like, well, how bad could it be? Yeah. I would say first and foremost, you've got to have that support, right? Whether it's someone that's helping you with the medication, whether it's a sponsor, a team captain, a coach, a friend, a parent, a spouse, a partner,
checking in with somebody. And whether it's maybe you do need some of the more, prescription medications and you need to have somebody dispense it to you. They keep it, they give it as you need. But my next thing would be that you need to have some really serious self-awareness.
That's a big one.
Sometimes it's hard to really assess what our pain is, mostly if you've struggled with addiction and other opiate issues. So oftentimes, if you're just coming off opiates or off recently, when you have pain, it's going to increase what would be just a regular stub toe for somebody else would feel like a broken arm or a broken foot to you. So is the pain worse or is it your mind is telling you it's worse?
Yeah.
And some of that is just time for your brain body to heal and say, yeah, it's not really that bad. But do you feel the pain worse? Absolutely. We're not saying that's not realistic.
No,
but
it's very real.
You have to say, what is it worth to be able to do some of that. It's difficult.
And with that mindset, when we watched Max kind of go through the whole process of surgery, post-op, all this stuff. And
not being able to work out, that's like his number one coping skill. And he couldn't work out for months.
No, he couldn't do it. Couldn't ride his bike, nothing. And it got to the point where the pain was so excruciating and whatnot. He told me, he's like, there are times I just curled up in a ball and cried. And then Brock, who is the other co-host of the Agents of Recovery, had a surgery on his neck or his shoulder at this point. And Max could tolerate to that point.
Yeah.
Brock's was a whole different story. If you go back and listen to the Agents of Recovery podcast, and we specifically talk about Brock's experience, Brock tried to do the same thing. And I don't know if Brock did it out of like, well, if Max can do it, I can do it.
Yeah.
That's unfair for you to even try to judge because everyone's pain tolerance, everyone's pain thresholds are different.
Very different.
And Brock got very honest in the podcast and discussed the fact that his pain was so intense, he was considering self-harm. That to me is an indicator that I would much rather have you take the medication and we'll deal with the residuals than to put yourself in a situation by which your other only opportunity or means is to really do something serious.
Yeah.
We've got to have open communication about these kind of things. And if you are willing to be uncomfortable, but not to the point where the pain threshold has left, I would say that, like Marissa said, self-awareness is the biggest part. It's only going to retake its hold if you allow it to.
Yeah.
And I think one of these things too is the pain medication you'd be taking for a legitimate issue is a legitimate issue. You have pain. That's what it's designed for. Now, I know that there's a lot of fear that's kind of mongered into these kind of things that and I've talked about the story about my friend, this is one molecule, it attaches to one receptor in my brain. I'm a dead man. Yeah, I don't think we're that weak, but I also know that we can't be dumb about it.
Yeah.
So the fact that you've even put it out here, now we've put it out there to the masses that we're going to keep an eye on you. And that if you start to sway or you start to withdraw, then we'll know. But on the same breath, you're a little bit behind the curve because we didn't know prior. Does that make sense? So let's get you to a spot where you feel as though you've got some support. We can have some people checking in on you and that you can be accountable too, right? And so, Lisa, we expect a Facebook message, a text message or something saying, I did, I didn't, this is where I'm at.
Yeah.
And then we're available if needs be. So you've got a team behind you.
Yeah. And she says she has her parents, which is good.
Good.
She lives with them, and her dentist said only Tylenol and ibuprofen. So I said, yeah, that sounds like a good dentist. I think doctors and dentists are hopefully getting further along with not just giving that out for every, pain pills out for everything.
Yeah.
And if the dentist says that, then you can handle it. It's like you said, we are stronger than we really think. But then she said, yeah, she used to be addicted to pain meds and doesn't want to go back. So.
Yeah. See, so you've made up your mind. And so if you're willing to get to that point, and only you will know what that threshold is, I would say don't cross the threshold. So put yourself to it, but don't cross it. I mean, like I said, there's too many variables that get deeper because then you feel like you failed and you have all these other emotional components to it.
Yeah.
I love the fact that you've got a support system there. That's huge. Even asking this question is awesome.
Yeah.
And we feel for you. I can think of, I've never given birth, but I can think of no greater pain than tooth pain. I think, Tom Hanks on the island out there, Castaway, does a great job of depicting how bad that could be. So, I hear you.
Yeah. And, I think it's really important to try to remember to, address your mind, Distraction is an amazing thing. And if oftentimes we get so stuck on something that's all we see, feel, think about is the pain and how we're going to address it. Yeah, then you're just going to ruminate on that and just go that way. So find something to do, find something to build, find something to busy your mind with something else. And usually it will help. I know even a couple of weeks ago, I was really sick and we're doing this erase and replace challenge where we're trying to exercise 45 minutes every single day. And I thought, yeah, right. I feel awful. And so one night I just looked up on YouTube, yoga for a cold when you're sick. And I was so mad that I was sitting down to do it. But by the time I was done at the end, I felt better, physically, it was weird. I'm like, this is all the things they tell you, but do you really believe it till you try it? So try it. Try something, keep yourself busy and do some distraction. Get up, get moving a little bit. And yeah.
I don't understand about when you have a tooth pain or something, why do you always fidget with it with your tongue? Why do you always keep touching it? I don't get that. What is that? It hurts, but you keep touching it?
Yeah.
What is that?
Our mind? I don't know.
Doesn't make any sense. Anyway, it's a whole different topic. Maybe we'll talk about behaviors later on. But great question, Lisa.
Yeah,
our hearts go out to you, and you got a team behind you. And so now we know we'll be checking up on you. So that's the way we do it. Hey, so Merz, I got this message, got this question.
Yeah.
And I like this one, and I think it goes into play to quite a few people, specifically when they've had such a long history of self-doubt, maybe what's perceived as failures or maybe just failure to thrive, what have you.
Yeah.
But how do I build self-confidence due to a long history of self-doubt? And this individual, I'll give you just a smidge of a background, comes from, again, part of that damaged inner child who just didn't have a lot of cultivating of you can do hard things, the support, let's talk and process. And the self-doubt has created this, I think, we'll call it again, a trauma threshold of like, I don't dare try new things because what if I fail? Self-confidence in recovery is huge. And sometimes it's inflated to the point where we bite off more than we can chew, or we try to be Superman when we don't quite have the power, right?
Yeah.
And so how do we go about building self-confidence when you have a long history of self-doubt? First and foremost, you're going to hear this a couple times today, is you've got to be willing to challenge the negative thoughts.
Yeah.
It's a big one. You got to question the validity of your self-doubt. And again, erase the negative and replace it with positive, more realistic, thoughts on yourself. And this is a big one because a lot of people don't understand this. How do you change a thought? You got to challenge it, right?
Yeah. Yeah. Well, and I think sometimes it's most the negative thinking we have, I've always believed, come from outside sources.
It's 100%.
So where did that come from? Who is it that told you that you've now adopted as that belief? And why are you putting so much stock and belief and trust into that person?
Yeah.
Most of the time, they're pretty messed up people. And they're just hurting people around them by saying something stupid or letting something, So really look at where it is coming from.
I'll tell you again, and I didn't do this on purpose, but that's where the Patreon, Inner Child podcast came from today.
Yeah.
Is because so many of the attributes that you hold as an adult cultivated itself when you were a child, and so this stuff started a long time ago.
And they run forever.
Absolutely, absolutely. And so what happens is you start kind of falling into these archetypes, which is like, the person that doesn't set boundaries, or the caretaker, or the mimic, and all these things. And then one day you're like, wait a minute, I can be my own person. And so in order to challenge that negative thought, you've got to be willing to see the folly in it.
Yeah.
And it's hard when you've been convinced that you are less than, that you are worthless, that you are not lovable, that you don't care about yourself. I mean, when you are convinced of this over and over and over again, it's a really hard thing to challenge that. And practicing self-compassion might be something that's a whole nother language to you.
Yeah.
How do you teach someone to practice their own self-compassion if they have never been able to do it?
Yeah.
Where do you start?
I think the best way is think about how much you love and care about others. People that you care the most about. Would you ever say the things to them that your inner dialogue is saying to you?
No way.
No. So, if you look at your inner self, you look at yourself as somebody that you love and cherish, like a child or a spouse or, some of your greatest friends, what would you say to them in those situations? It's hard, but it's taking and doing some, perspective changes and switches inside your brain.
It's like this, and not going too deep into it because again, the Patreon episode discusses a lot about this, but I would say to practice self-compassion, I would take you down this little path. And some of you have heard this before, but many of you might not have, and it's always worth repeating. But let's say that this individual here, was wandering around one day and bumps into old Marty and Doc Brown in the DeLorean. They jump in and they Back to the Future. They go back to where maybe they were in second, third grade, right? And so if Coach Blu here bumps into Marty and Doc, and I take that back to 1980 whatever, and go cruising into one of the multi schools I went to,
trying to find which one you're at,
and I bump into 6-year-old, 7-year-old Blu, what do I say to him? And I like the premise of this because you can't hang out at the school for long, right? But what do you say to the 7-year-old version of you?
Yeah.
You've only got a little bit of time. You got to get the car back. You don't want to mess up the time space continuum too much.
Mm-hmm.
Most people, Marissa, they don't know what to do. And a lot of them will say things like, in fact, if you're watching this right now, I want you to answer this question. If you were right now to bump into the 7-year-old version of you, the 6-year-old version of you, what'd be the one thing you'd say to them? And the reason why I asked, and I'd love to see someone pop up there with a response before I give you kind of the thought process, because you think about it, right? There's this kid, and I remember this, and this is why it always used to break my heart when our kids would go to school frustrated or upset, because I'm like, that's a whole day now. They don't get to have any kind of closure to the conversation. Maybe we get after them because, like yesterday, our son's sleeping in, and I hollered at him. I'm like, dude, this is super disrespectful. Like, we got to get people here. We got to get people there. Yeah. And the whole day he had to carry that little bit of like, well, that sucked this morning, right? That was horrible. And so I picked this school because of that, right? And we've all been chastised by our parents. Like, I needed to have this for homework, whatever. Yeah. What did Dustin say there?
He said he would tell himself, do you want to go for a run?
I love it. Yeah.
I like that.
And then Dustin would be put on the wanted list because the teacher would be like stranger danger, right? But you're right. Some people have said things like, I would kneel down, I would look into my own eyes, and I would say, hey, there's going to be a time when your friends come over, when your parents are gone, just don't go with them, right?
Yeah. Or it's going to be hard.
It's going to be hard, but you know what? You can push through. You can do hard things. And I'm thinking, the 6-year-old looking at you like, Mr. Who? Like, what are you talking about? Like,
it's going to be hard.
Yeah. The one thing that most everybody fails to say to themselves is what?
I love you.
I love you. And it's something we didn't really hear a lot when we were little.
Yeah.
And so when you've been constantly kind of like looked at as an obstacle or a roadblock or a vehicle to get what someone else has wanted, it's real hard to focus on your strengths, to love and to be loved.
Yeah.
And when I first started to conceptualize this principle of like, and this is why Disney as a kid's so good, because he looks at himself and he's like, this kid, I'm pathetic. He like, I have a lisp, I'm overweight, I'm awkward. And through the process, he learns to love himself again.
Yeah.
And we always say this, I think as therapists, we say this a lot, and as counselors, we say this a lot. We say, you got to fall in love with yourself. You got to love yourself. People, half of us, if not the majority of us, don't know what that means. We're able to love somebody else, but when we're trying to love ourselves, what does that freaking mean? Looking in the mirror and saying, you gorgeous bastard, like, enjoy your day. Like, what does that mean, right? So,
but I love it too in that show because
mindset.
He goes back and he learns to love that broken, not perfect, insecure little boy first.
Yeah.
Before, and you think as it starts that you think that he loves himself as an adult, and he doesn't really.
Yeah.
He likes some of the outward expectations that he's put on himself and come to, but not that inner person and child. In the movie The Kid, that upbringing turned him into a self-centered, kind of hyper-focused, critical person that he kind of sculpted his career after. Mm-hmm. But it's interesting because I heard this on a TikTok, which is hilarious, but like the TikTok said, the person you are today is the person you would have felt comfortable with as a kid. Yeah.
That hit pretty deep,
Yeah.
And I'm thinking,
because
if
you're the one who knows that kid, the thoughts, what.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
So in order to do that, though, and if I'm saying, if you've been hard on yourself that long to build self-confidence, to practice self-compassion, you may not know how. You may not know what that means, right? Mm-hmm. Treat yourself with some kindness and some understanding, and to remember that everyone's experiences self-doubt at some point. You're not the only one, but really, you've come through the school of hard knocks with a doctorate degree.
Yeah.
This is why I think it's so crucial right now. People that are listening to this, please take heed. We have to be very cautious and careful with this generation that's coming up right now, these 18, 19 and below kids who are the recipients of the opiate epidemic, who lost primary caregivers to, Purdue Pharma and fentanyl. These kids have grown up without a primary caregiver. The ones that were supposed to love them unconditionally, they're not there. And so I'm noticing right now as these 18, 19, even 20-year-olds that are coming in for counseling and therapy, not knowing why they don't know how to love or be loved, is because they were left behind. We have a huge problem that no one's talking about right now, is that we're going to have to be cautious when we employ them, when we teach them, when we build relationships with them, that they're going to be a little bit sharp and a little bit withdrawn. And it's going to be hard.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah, it's rough.
So if you're going to build some self-compassion, you've got to practice some self-compassion. You've got to be able to say, hey, I'm doing the best that I can. You have strengths in there. Start to concentrate on them.
Yeah.
Be mindful of what your limitations are. There are some things that you're not going to be able to do until you practice them. Practice doesn't make perfect. It makes permanent, right?
Yeah. Keep working on it for sure.
And one of the best things you can do is surround yourself with people that are positive. Detach yourself from the people that are keeping you stuck.
Yeah. If you still have in your life some of those individuals that put in that negative thinking that we said usually comes from, you may need to evaluate those relationships.
Yeah. It's not easy. And then, to be honest, this is one thing I love about Addict to Athlete, is that it gives the individuals an opportunity to reflect on their achievements. It may seem like a stupid 5K or 10K or half or full marathon, whatever, may feel, but, our rookie of the year, Jason Jensen, his first organized run with Team Addict to Athlete and in his life was a little turkey trot 5K in November. And he didn't get a medal. He got a beanie, which was kind of cool. But he cherished his timing card. He did that in like 27 minutes or something and was proud of it. I'm like, Jason, don't lose this. This is going to be the coolest thing ever. And then I promptly found it on the ground, right?
He didn't.
I'm like, dude, he
didn't realize he dropped it.
Got to tease him a little bit. But that small achievement to recognize that I finished something that I started.
Yeah.
Now I have a benchmark. A
commitment to even train for, show up that morning was huge.
This is why I think people that don't understand the running community or the athletic community, when people post their training or they post their races, you get some people that are like, participation trophy, F you.
Yeah.
These are achievements.
Yeah.
And we've got to reflect on those. And so by these small kind of contributions to you'll do like we talked about yesterday, the Phoenix, you'll rise from it.
Yeah. It's getting yourself involved in those little things. Set some goals for yourself so that you can start proving those negative thoughts wrong.
Absolutely.
If those are the things that you're thinking that I'm worthless, find a place, find a situation where you are worth something and put yourself into that. Go volunteer where you are worth it. They need you there.
Yeah.
And find those situations where you can prove the negative thoughts.
Yeah. Find a mentor, find a coach, find
Get
someone.
involved.
Yep.
Little
Absolutely.
things.
This next question is interesting, and I've sometimes been nervous to tackle some of these kind of things too. I mean, because there's shortcomings that Coach Blu has as a therapist, and I always kind of think, am I really gonna be able to help some of these people? Because sometimes they come with some heavy stuff, and I remember being a little bit nervous about questions like this, but now I get the premise, I get the follow through. But this one comes from an individual who says, it seems as though I have so many problems, diagnosed depression, diagnosed anxiety, along with some health problems. I just feel as though I'm not ever going to get out of this rut. Where do I even start? This is a classic example of someone that comes to Team Addict to Athlete after they've reached their boiling point. There may be years of addiction. They have some things that would qualify them as being dual diagnosed, right? Which is addiction diagnosis with mental health, right?
Yeah.
And a little bit of a bonus sprinkle of some physical limitations and problems.
Yeah.
And so first and foremost, whenever I hear this, I'm curious, what's the first thing that stands out to you with a question like this? Like, I have so many problems. I just feel as though I'm not ever going to get out of this rut.
Right. Personally, I just look at, just the lack of hope And
The lack of hope.
that's a hard place to be.
Yeah.
Thinking that, although it feel like everything's
That's
kind
the
of against
depression talking,
you.
right?
And that's the sadness.
Yeah, absolutely. The first thing I caught in this, whenever someone says this to me, is I automatically dial into it, is the thoughts versus the feelings. I feel as though I'm never going to get out of this rut. Is that a feeling?
No,
No. What is it?
that's a thought.
It's a thought.
A feeling is a one word.
A one word.
Sad,
Mm-hmm.
hopeless, heartbroken. Yeah.
Listeners, you're going to sound, Coach Blu, you're on your broken record. We have got to distinguish and differentiate our thoughts from our feelings. If we don't do this, we give ourselves the right to stay stuck, and I'm sorry, in what we call the victim mentality.
Mm-hmm.
This is a lot like a conversation I was having years ago. I'm talking like circa 2002, 2003, working with youth with Derek back in the day.
Yeah.
And we had a girl that came in. She was a teenager, and she was saying, my life sucks. My parents don't trust me. I can't go out at night. And we'd gotten reports that the parents had listed all these things that they could do and she could do.
Mm-hmm.
And Derek's like, well, so what were some of their ideas? She's like, well, they said that we could go to this movie. And Derek's like, why didn't you? Because I didn't want to go see the movie. And then I could have this friend come over, but I didn't want that friend to come over. And Derek stands up. He starts mimicking like a shotgun, like pumping and shooting like clay pigeons, right?
Yeah.
And she's looking at him like, what are you doing? She's like, everything we're pitching out, you're just shooting out of the sky. You've got 15 different things you can do, but because it's not the one thing you want to do, why even try?
Someone else's options.
Absolutely. So I hear this and I think, well, where do we start? Because you've kind of defeated yourself before you've even begun.
Yeah.
When you use a I feel statement, I can't challenge that because a feeling is yours, right? If you feel depressed,
you can't tell somebody how.
I can't say, no, you're not depressed. Look at everything you have, You can't do that. Your feelings, and I, as much as I don't like this comment either, your feelings are your truth. They're your feelings. But thoughts we can play with. Thoughts we can challenge. But the reason why she says here, I just, feel as though instead of I think I'm never going to get out of this rut is because I can say, well, we're going to change your thinking, but that means something else. What does that mean?
Address that. Like, then you have to do something.
Then you got to do something. Absolutely.
Yeah.
Let's start with depression. Depression is that mood. It's that feeling. It's that problem to where you are stuck with the shoulda, coulda, wouldas of the past. It's stuff that hurts, that's unresolved, that bleeds into today. That's lack of motivation, lack of desire, hopelessness, feelings, right?
Yeah. Trying to change the past.
Trying to change the past, which how easy is that to do unless you bump into Doc Brown, but we've stolen the car to go see ourselves, right?
Yeah.
You can't. Anxiety. Okay, anxiety is worry. The shoulda, coulda, was about what's coming.
Yeah, future.
The future. So if you're constantly worrying about the past and your future tripping about what's coming, what about right now?
Mm-hmm.
See, because right now is where we get you out of the rut. Because we can't change what's happening tomorrow.
Yeah.
We can't change what happened yesterday, but we can do it right now. But this means movement. Well, we sprinkle in the physical limitations, right? Yeah. And for this individual, what I do know is that it's a weight issue, okay? And it's not like I'm paralyzed from the waist down. It's a weight issue, and so that's going to increase the anxiety because if I go out and I work out, well, then I'm going to be the subject of people, or I should have treated my body better. Depression, gone. We're taking those off. We're moving those away, right? Because everyone needs a comeback. Everyone needs a second wind. Where do you start? You start right today. Now. You start today. Yeah. But you have to differentiate your thoughts from your feelings. Why do you think that's so hard for people?
Well, I think culturally it's what people have done. Like
gives us an excuse.
We've done that because when you feel a certain way, people can't question that. So then it's easier to just agree with that person because you can't say no, that's wrong. You're not, Yep. You're not feeling right. Because only we know how we're feeling inside. And so,
exactly.
We can't address it with anyone else.
The first module in the Addict to Athlete playbook is choose your starting line. Okay. You've got to choose your starting line. When is your now? Mm-hmm. Today at 4 p.m., I am going to fill in the blank.
Yeah.
Okay. So you got to pick a tangible thing to do. You can't be like, I'm going to take it one day at a time. That doesn't make any sense. What does that mean? It's got to be tangible.
Yeah.
I am going to get up, walk out that front door, and walk around the block. That's it.
Yeah.
Right?
Yep.
And when's the now? Today at 4 o'clock. And then when 4 o'clock hits, you
For a
go.
walk.
You go.
Do what you can.
Absolutely. And
you may not be able to go run a mile. You may not be able to, but there's a lot of things you can do. And that's where we're starting. You're not starting by comparing yourself to what somebody else can do. It's start where you can.
Yeah, you're not comparing yourself to Dustin who can run across Texas. You're comparing yourself to your person yesterday. You're comparing yourself to who you were at 3 o'clock and not 4 o'clock.
And as a swimmer, I always say, go get in the water. Like,
oh man,
such a great way to get, you get all that weight off, your knees hurt, your back hurts. In the water, it doesn't.
Well, and I'll be 100% honest with you. It's, changing habits is hard. Up until October, I was living a pretty crappy lifestyle, man. I was eating like garbage, high blood pressure, all this stuff. And I'm like, maybe if we started being more mindful, got the help that we needed, started doing this funny little thing called, taking your own advice, waking up, going to the gym, lost like almost 30 pounds. It's crazy. You've lost 20 something, almost 30 pounds. 20. I mean, I wish it'd come off faster and I could be a muscly guy, but hey, it takes time. Does that mean I don't miss all the fun foods and stuff? Yeah, I do. Yeah. But what happens when you start losing weight, you get this weird kind of thing called confidence. Now, like it or not, the minute you start moving and start losing and start feeling better, guess what happens? It is clinically proven that your depression will begin to subside. It won't take care of it all, but you'll start feeling better. Movement equals healing. It's the whole foundation of what Team Addict Athlete stands for. Movement equals healing. I can't wait to discuss this with the Erase and Replace project.
Yeah.
Then, as you're moving and as you're grooving and as you're starting to lessen, all of a sudden this anxiety it starts to go away. Why? Because now you're like, wait a minute, I can show up. I don't have to be stuck here, so I don't have to worry about that. And the dominoes begin to fall.
Yeah.
And so it doesn't matter about what happened yesterday. It doesn't matter about what happens today or tomorrow. What happens is right now.
Yeah. And they have studies that say that exercise is 1.5 times more effective than medication.
We've known this
depression,
for 13 years from Team Addict to Athlete.
So may it fix it, all of it?
No.
Maybe not. Some, it may fix all of it.
Mm-hmm.
But it's going to help.
Absolutely.
And it's just getting off the couch to do it. It's getting up. It's hard. And then also if you're looking at the weight loss, it's so hard. It's not easy. There's some weeks I have gained or stalled or stayed, and that is so frustrating. Why am I doing this? Why am I, working so hard at this? But it's it's the long term where, what does it all add up to? Time?
If I could figure out how to play a video through here, I'd let these guys listen to the audio of this this YouTube short that I found, and it's a guy who's very overweight, who's on a journey, obviously, and he says, and the whole thing, it starts right off. He's like, "Why do I feel this way? Why can I be doing great, and I can have one little problem, I can have one crappy meal, and I feel like all is lost?" And he was so in his head, and it was so raw and real that I'm like, dude, I know how you feel. I've done that before, where I'm like, maybe I'll have another piece, and then you're like, crap, did that negate the whole hour and a half workout? No, it didn't. Because when we restrict, we start to get into that problematic mindset of all or nothing, and that's not how life works.
Yeah, it's not the it's the macro, not the micro.
So taking charge of your destiny is an empowering thing. If you decide that it's time to go, it's time to go. And, the best thing you can do, again, is surround yourself with a team. I keep blowharding about this, but Team Addict to Athlete. No one walks through this door gets mocked or made fun of for changes that they're making. Doesn't matter if you're an Olympian or if you are a couch to 5K investigator.
And that's one of the cool things about our meetings. You can walk in here and you see somebody that looks like an ultra athlete to somebody that, may have just gotten off the couch for the first time. And it's a safe space for everyone and anyone and all in between.
Yeah.
And that's what we want to welcome.
So for this person, while acknowledging your limitations is important, it's equally crucial to focus on what can be controlled, right?
Yeah.
To work towards overcoming the obstacles, because that's all this stuff is. They are obstacles that you get to master overcoming, right?
Yeah.
And it doesn't matter if it's depression, if it's anxiety, if it's, feelings of being overweight. Oh, well, we're going to get you over, through, under, and around them so long as you show up. Right?
Yeah.
And that mindset often leads to some personal growth. We've seen that.
Yeah.
Resilience, which we talked about last week on the Erase and Replace project with Marshall Ulrich.
Yep.
And a sense of genuine fulfillment. And it can happen faster than you think. Like, I've seen people that said, I'm not a runner, finish a 5K, 10K, and feel as though they've run the Boston Marathon.
Yep.
So it's about embracing the process, making the most out of the resources, getting some accountability through someone who's not going to fall into the victim mentality. Yeah. If you want to change your world, we've got to change your thinking. And that's a hard thing, but you can do it. And so where do you start? Right now. Yeah. Start today. Where do you start? Wherever you are. What do you do? Whatever's going to work. Walking first. To the mailbox, to the end of the street, around the block.
Yeah.
Boston Marathon.
Work on anything.
Absolutely.
Anything's better than nothing.
Anything's better than nothing.
So
great questions today, you guys. Keep them coming. We'll probably put this out there a little bit earlier next year. We are desperately trying to figure out the phone. I know it's possible, but we want to get live phone calls on here.
Yeah.
And so I know it's coming. We're going to figure this stuff out. Unfortunately, we're therapists and rec therapists. We're not, computer geeks and technologically advanced.
And every time we do figure it out, the platform we're using, changes and upgrades. And
I'm going to blame it on that, a lot of it, because it does. It changes a lot.
Yeah.
So, yeah. This will be rebroadcast as a podcast later this week. We'd love you to keep an eye on the website, addict2athlete.org. You'll find all of our backlog podcast information about Team Addict Athlete. Our sober coach, certified sober coach training is on there. Our team store. If you are like, let's go, let's get this party started, grab a running jersey, go out there and represent.
Awesome things in our store.
Be a walking billboard of your recovery. You get to bump into a lot of cool people that way.
Yep.
But yeah, we'd love for you guys to jump on and give us a review on the podcast. It greatly helps us get this podcast out further. And really, you guys, keep the dialogue coming. I love being able to answer questions.
Please.
If your question you didn't feel like you could ask it in the public forum, email us blue@addict2athlete.org, marissa@addict2athlete.org. And we'd love to get you set up with some help if you need it. So until next time, do your best, turn that mess into your message.